Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a chess show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today I have two distinguished guests. Professor Ken Regan, welcome to the show.
Yes, good to see you again.
Yes, great to have you. And also Jim Eat from Eat Foundation. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Sasha. Great to be here.
Always great to see you, Jim. So we just have the World Cup ended with a great victory finally for Carlsen. The Magnus did fantastic performance. He was in command, maybe with some exception for his match with Skamer, which was a little bit shaky, but he prevailed anyway, as we know. And there was also a great victory for Indian grandmasters who did perform fantastically well, and they occupied a few places in the upcoming candidate tournament as well. Ken, what are your comments on that?
Yes, well, it is a great victory for Carlsen. It comes at a highly symbolic time when he has abandoned his regular world championship, and he had never won the World Cup before. And the thing is, it's not necessarily so clear that the highest rated player will prevail in this format because the individual matches are short, and he could very easily have been eliminated by Kamer, as you mentioned. But nevertheless, I said he never won it before, but it is I think great for chess that he did. He did show aspects of his superiority, which will go over in his games of the final. Um, I think also it is to his liking that the format does include rapid and blitz in a natural way, because he very much showed his domination in those time
Yeah.
controls.
Jim, what are your impressions from World Cup?
Well, yeah, I think it was also a great statement on Magnus's part to win it. I love the format. As Ken points out, that the shorter match format is a little bit less predictable. Sometimes the underdog is going to triumph in those cases just because it's a short match. Like Magnus got behind one game, and so he was in a must-win situation. These types of things are very dramatic, if not necessarily determining who's the absolute best player in the world, but they are certainly entertaining for the fans. And usually the cream does rise to the top, as I think it did in this tournament for the most part. And I think Magnus had demonstrated that he could draw a long match and get it into the rapid and blitz play anyway, where he's clearly dominant. So whether you want to watch all these long draws or whether you want to watch these shorter matches, that's a question of preference and taste. And I'm leaning towards the short matches.
I think I would make exception for semifinal and final, make it 4 games match, but I don't think it would greatly affect the result. So it will be 2 more draws, uh, and I would like to mention that maybe Caruana would benefit from a little bit longer match, so he would, after losing his game, maybe he would have some chances to equalize. Maybe not.
A
So it remains.
phenomenal performance by him too.
Yes, by the way, yes, yes, and quality of his games was quite well. Ken,
Absolutely.
do you have anything to show us from
Yes, I
this?
do. So I have a number of things to show, and we shan't
Excellent.
forget the women's tournament, which was
Yeah,
won by Alexandra Goryachkina in very, very convincing style. Although she, as I'll show, she was in trouble in the final um,
Tur-
against Nurgul Salimova.
a Turkish Bulgarian grandmaster.
That's right. So, but let's begin with the decisive game against Pragnananda. First game of the 2-set match where Magnus Carlsen had black. Okay, because there's an interesting theme common to some of these games, which is the difference in playing nature of a position over the board versus what the engine says,
Yes.
the creation of practical chances. Okay,
Now, what's
so
the time control on this, Ken? Do you remember?
The time control is the key. Wait, this is the first rapid game.
It's 25 plus 30.
Yeah, 25 plus 10. So I count
Oh,
that
plus
as
10,
being
sorry.
35. So slower than the world rapid pace.
But still enough time to think.
Right.
Yep.
There's still enough. The clock times as shown by Chess24 are not relevant.
Okay.
So this is the Gioco Piano type positions, which I learned as a child, but where a lot of new ideas have been infused. One of them about whether to play black's A pawn 1 square or 2,
Right.
to lock the position or preserve more elasticity. Carlsen chose to lock the position and trade White's bishop right away. So now White has a little more command to the center, but also more rigid center. White has the F file, which I've always liked in these positions.
Right.
But Magnus is just going to play a strong point type of game and absorb whatever pressure White tries to bring. So there we go. White's trying to exploit the F file and the F5 square, but Black is able to hit back in the center. So, in one sense, you could be worried as Black that you've created some weaknesses on E5, but Carlsen's going to calculate enough to show that they can be turned into strengths. It must be pointed out that the engine does give White more than a half pawn advantage after this knight G5 move, and after Black declines an attempt to repeat. This is a little rickety. Maybe it's risky for Black. Maybe
it can't. Just the eyeball test, it looks like White. I would much prefer to play White in this position.
That's right. I mean, you have to worry about, is G4 going to collapse? Can White play G4 and then Rook F6? What tactic is preserving Black's position? Presumably trapping
by
White's queen.
NF5 and right.
Yeah. Okay, well, White plays knight F5, a scary move, but one that actually is not effective.
Interesting.
So the engine actually wants White to put pressure on E5 or come in with the queen and double up on the F file. Either is a fine task. There's also a call for D4 followed by E5.
Wow.
So as D4, then E5 is a latent threat in the position. Right. Anyway, the Praggnanandhaa to play this, which looks attractive. It undoubles the pawns, brings an attacker to the king, but the strong point defense, actually, now maybe you can see a little better that it's going to hold. White isn't attacking from as many directions. F6 is covered. I guess you do have to just see how you react if White plays G4. That's the move I'd be afraid of. But in fact, it's just this, and now what's White's follow-up? So anyway.
Can't you play H6? He goes G4.
Yeah, let's see. If you go G4, I guess that's worth asking about. H6 is good too. So this is, and actually one point here is that Black is going to have more active pieces on the king side than White, because White's bishop is off to the side. And the character of the position is that D5 is no longer a pressure point. So one long-term thing is that White is playing a piece down in this theater.
Exactly. That's a really good point, and it becomes evident later, but I did not see that. When I played over this game, it only became evident to me that was your point was well taken after several more moves. And then the absence of the B3 bishop is felt.
If you will compare the White pawn on F5, and before it was on E4. So I think with a pawn on F5 instead of E4, the position, White's position is deteriorating, in fact, because in E4, pawn was very useful to control the center, and Black would have no initiative for the rest of the game. Now, whether White would have enough initiative, it remains to be seen. But at least they had chances for equal position at any time during the game. With pawn on F5, there is no easy way for White to keep equal position, because their attack is really stuck there is no way to increase their attack, and slowly we will see how black will starting outplay white.
It's very interesting that knight f5 looked like a natural move to
Yeah.
me, but it
Yeah.
was a mistake.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So white played king h1, trying for a slow build up, but it's a little bit inconsistent to have a slow build up as a follow up to a feint. and what happens is black is able to trade the queens, and now black really is no worry because
Yes.
black has more pieces on the king side and a better center. White has a bishop against a knight, but the bishop is just not effective.
Right.
Well, okay, now maybe the bishop is effective, but
Well,
white
this
has
is back in play.
yeah.
But the other points that you made are still, it's like white certainly has no real advantage here. And
Yeah. White has a fixed weakness on e4, which black probes. So white has to play a so awkward defensive move. Didn't want to allow a pin on the d file. So black's pieces are but the position is dead equal. Game should be drawn, but we'll see how Carlsen maneuvers. Okay, so Carlsen takes time out to defend that pawn. You don't want to put a weakness on b6. Now g4, active move. Engine doesn't like it.
Yeah, neither.
Oh, do we humans like it?
I didn't.
Engine says white should just double up on the f file again since nothing's hitting e4, and just hold the position. Okay, well, I don't know. It's funny, the engine evaluation rocks back and forth, but it's a question of larger term strategy. Okay, so black does have weakness on g6, but let's start defending it. And okay.
Now you would think that white is making some progress here.
Yeah.
Because the more pieces that come off, the more the bishop versus knight might be important.
Right. And white has, can't say white can develop an outside pass pawn on the queen side. The e pawns are weak for both players now.
Right.
Black's knights maybe have better eventual prospects on f4 and d4. So like the dark square sense
That's a really good point.
favors black. White can't organize an attack on g6. That's maybe a surprising fact. So
and that's also a really good point that you made, because white can't go to knight to e3, but the d5 and f5 squares are covered.
Right.
But the f4 and d4 squares are available to black. So that is a significant difference and an advantage to black.
Right. So white gets a little passive, and this is the point where I actually flipped on the game.
Yeah.
And I saw this. Okay, so the engine is saying essentially equal, and
almost equal.
Yeah, almost equal. Okay, yeah, But I thought, well, this is rickety. Some catastrophe can happen for white on the squares around the king. There isn't a similar catastrophe that can happen for black because there are just no places to attack. There's no way white can attack the b7 square. The e5 square is really well defended. White's bishop doesn't have any great prospects. There's no place the bishop can sit and exert a enduring influence on the position because the center's closed. So okay, so black comes into the square. Now black's rook infiltrates.
Now you got to like black now.
It's still equal, but here Praggnanandhaa hits out rashly, and he also was behind on time. So Carlsen did have about 4 minutes here, and Praggnanandhaa was down under 1 minute.
I need this move explained to me, though. At e6, I don't understand. It seems panicky to me.
It is panicky. It's trying to give prospects for white's bishop. The engine, actually, this is the zone of one mistake, because as you see from Stockfish's evaluations, any move other than bishop d1 puts black up by an essential pawn. So what the engine wants white to do is reroute the bishop to this diagonal. Well, and even there, things are churning. Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess the bishop could go to f1, and that's an effective no. I'm just going to put it back on d1. That's an effective square. Well, it's there. White has to be accurate and find ways of holding things. I thought this was very rickety for black. Notice that black's knight is
Yeah,
coming in
right.
this way. And there have been other games where two knights and a rook have famous games in chess history where two knights and a rook have mounted an effective attack. Anyway,
Of course. Yes.
Praggnanandha panicked and is trying to get scope for the bishop, but it's tactically bad, and it turns out actually black is winning simply by invading.
Yeah.
Okay, so rook c3 actually is said it gave white a breather, perhaps to
Right.
put the rook on a better defensive square. But Praggnanandha didn't do that. It's a consequential move, following up the plan of recovering a pawn on c6, but you're just leaving the barn door open over here. No defenders for white's king. So rook c2 comes a move too late, and now it's actually checkmate on the back rank. So and Praggnanandha gave up, using the bishop. So sudden collapse, but certainly Carlsen's energetic, I guess nettlesome is the word I'd use, way of playing, just playing a way to preserve potential energy in his position. So this was the decisive game. Carlsen effectively neutralized Praggnanandha in the second game. I'll just make one remark about the opening. Praggnanandha, needing a win as black, plays the Sicilian, best way to unbalance the position. But Carlsen played the c3 Sicilian, the Alapin. And the point is that this can lead to some very boring positions.
Mm-hmm.
It was said earlier that the c3 Sicilian is a boring way to get a slight disadvantage for white. But as what happened here, however, though, is that this is a position in which the queens can come off fairly rapidly. This is a known book position.
Right.
And I actually like white here because I've played like this, but Carlsen, I guess, knows what he's doing. And so actually, Carlsen's white. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Carlsen.
Sorry. So actually, white has gotten the advantage of this position.
I think so. It's hard to say otherwise.
And now, this is just going to be trading off all the pieces.
Yeah.
And the game. Praggnanandha said there's no sense trying to play for a win.
Right.
And a few moves later, and agreed drawn. So, okay, so that's a very steady performance by Magnus Carlsen, even though he was said to have food poisoning during the match.
Wow. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. Okay.
His second game, he was pretty sick. So he drew it, and the next day he very convincingly won the playoff.
Okay, so this was that's right. When he was white, he did not try to win with the white pieces in the second.
Well, that explains that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So same thing. He could say that he was just wanting to go for the tie breaks, but in fact, he's gotten this position right away.
That's precisely what I thought, was that he was just aiming for the tie breaks.
Yeah. But no, apparently he was indisposed.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to go over to the women's.
Before you do, Ken, I want to say one more thing. I think it was really instructive to show how white was attacking on the king side, but ultimate king side advantage went to black in that decisive game. And that was really instructive to me. I didn't pick up on it until it was made obvious. And, that's the way that some of these games are decided, is by somebody. It looks one thing, but the other player has seen deeper, and it looks one way, and to the casual observer, it may look like white is attacking and pressing on the king side. But as Sasha pointed out, there weren't any real prospects of attack.
Yeah.
And the ultimate advantage was going to be to black on the king side, because the bishop on b3 was out of play for a large part of the game.
So the engine likes this position for white, but maybe the engine's wrong. if the situations are right.
We played King G7, not F6.
Yeah, well, this I played a different move for white.
Right.
The engine wants.
Oh, I
white,
see. I see.
white
You just
to play
drop
knight
back.
H3, which doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah.
A move actually that preserves an advantage. I actually think that D4 is
It's really interesting, and it's not something I considered.
yeah. I actually think that that's the most consequent way to play for an advantage, because you do force black to make a weakness. Let's see, if black forces to play F6, yeah, pretty much.
Well, what if instead of recapturing on D4, you just play E5 immediately?
Yeah, that's true too. You play E5 immediately. Let's see, is there a tactical flaw?
C5 might be a tactical flaw.
Yeah, well, the engine wants to play Caruana's losing move, which we'll get time to show at the end. No, the engine thinks that Queen C5 is white's not going to get the pawn back.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Maze just tactically doesn't work.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, that's the second exhibit for the sudden collapse theme. So this is a dynamic position. There's a lot of chess to play in this position.
But what about taking the E pawn right now? You can't because it's pinned, of course.
Knight takes E4 has got to be too strong. So
right.
Yeah, it's a question of what black plays bishop E6, and white plays here a nice move, bringing the bishop to pair on G6.
And now the bishop's in the game again. So.
Yeah, bishop's in the game again. So rook A8, bishop C2. But this, it's
yeah.
The evaluation swings back and forth. This, it's a game.
Yeah, and I like white here.
Yeah, I like white, but Carlsen, has his own sense of what's comfortable defense.
I don't want to play white against Carlsen. Don't get me wrong.
But okay, so now this was the decisive game of the women's final, in the sense of Salimova missing an opportunity in the second game as white. And I think she said to have had a lesser opportunity in the first game. The women's final, the games are all very tactical and very interesting. Like you showed the first game of the women's final too.
As we've come to expect.
Yeah. So black this is another interesting thing. Black is doing well in this position, again, according to the engine. Maximal stuff on the queen side. But the question is, what is the ultimate gain going to be? What do you do with this queenside initiative? I think it's humanly hard to justify, whereas white has just built up very compactly on the king side. But the gain for white is going to be clear. You're going to get a center and a center push and a king side attack. And that does eventually come through, even though the engine says black is better in this position.
Wow, that's so interesting to me, because I don't agree that black is better in this position.
Yeah, it is. I mean, black has more space on the queen side, but it's a question of, what can we do with it? Black will. One tactical thing that does happen is black plays B3, and if white replays A3, then there are tactics on C2 to, even if you sacrifice something there because of the pawn. And there's also bishop takes A3 tactics.
It's always in the air, right?
Yeah. So that's what you gain from having the advanced pawns.
Correct.
This is really odd. White, it seems like white hasn't done anything with the build up on the king side at all, but now you're going to see it unfold over the next few moves. Okay, the white is repositioned.
And we haven't even talked about the isolated pawn on D5, which is what I don't like about black's position.
Right, that's right. Yeah. So now here's where Goryachkina gave up a pawn for maybe no reason. There was nothing wrong. Well, actually, now black is going to lose a pawn. It's on the move before. Okay, so there's no reason black shouldn't play king G7 here. And I guess if white takes the pawn, what's the tactical counterattack to win it back? Well, you just play knight f5.
Well, yeah. I was thinking more along the lines of bg3. I hadn't really thought it through, but
yeah,
rather than rook takes pawn.
yes. So this
Yeah, that looks iffy.
yeah, this looks, yeah, there's going to be an invasion on the queen side. That's black's trump. So white's going to have back rank and queen side troubles. So,
Would the h5 be possible with knight on g4?
yeah, let's see. So could black have played h5 as well? I think, let's see. Was h5 was losing to knight f6 and knight takes d5 was.
I see. Yeah, simple.
So, yeah, so Goryachkin had defended f6, but this allowed white to win the pawn with check. Now white's pawn ahead. Okay, so at this point, Salimov must be judged to be winning. Okay, you're pawn ahead and you have the initiative, but and this even looks like white has made even more progress. Okay, so now you win that pawn, and your black has weaknesses on the king side as well. So this surely must be a case. Now even the b pawn is maybe going to fall. There surely must be a case. Engine says white is over 3. If you just take on e3 or d5, there are lots of moves that preserve the edge. So it's unfortunate that white just allows herself to be outplayed. Looks like you're rounding up that pawn, and you should just take it here. Oh, you took it. So
why not? Yeah.
So this now looks resignable for black, but there's one trump card to play, and this is again the theme I was talking about of rook and two knights.
Yes,
being able to
with
mount
threat.
So I guess this needs study. Well, how did white manage to fritter away the advantage and let black into the game? Like this trade of rooks is something you'd want to do 2 pawns ahead, but it leaves black's pieces, I guess, in better overall positions. So black now is going to win a pawn back. So the rest of now the game is even, and just play through the moves. White eventually lost a piece from the tactics on the queen side. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
But you can survive king and knight, rook and knight versus rook is much easier to survive than rook and bishop versus rook.
Sure, but it never should have come to this.
Never should have come to this. Yeah.
Ken, would that be fair
amazing.
to say, after watching these 2 games that you just showed to us, you normally in chess there is a thing called 2 bishops advantage. Is there 2 games show 2 knights advantage?
Their games show 2 knights. I would say so, yes.
The last 2 games, which you demonstrate, to me, it's 2 knights advantage for sure.
The knights dancing around and attacking are extremely difficult to defend against.
Right.
Especially when there is a shortage of time.
And you add a rook, a straight mover to that, and it's like there's all sorts of mating chances, all sorts of forking chances. It's very difficult to calculate a defense.
Yep.
I have found that I love attacking with 2 knights, and but if you're going into an ending, obviously the 2 bishops are better. But when you're attacking
1 bishop instead of 2, it's very annoying that you are covering only white or black squared, and if you're limited to only 1 color. And you cannot do anything on the squares of the other color. This is so annoying that while 2 knights or 2 bishops, they're covering all colors, all squares. But 2 knights in endgame, that's definitely.
And that is certainly a decisive theme in this game. This is, again, the sudden collapse theme. So the engine says black should be able to hold this, but black needs to think about this. How can we restrain white's 2 pawns? So there's got to be some sort of dynamic balance that is kept. And this is very difficult over the board.
I agree.
However, the move that I felt lost the game, that showed Black had the wrong plan, was this move, putting the king
Right.
there.
Right.
Whereas a balanced play,
It looks
I'm
rough.
sure Black needs to play king f5 in this position, and have the idea that you're going to force White to move. You're going to block White's king, force White to move a pawn, and then that will enable Black to set up a blockade that is also dynamically maintained by the d pawn. But king d5 was a definite step in the wrong direction.
No question.
Could not take over the square f4 anymore. And in a few more moves, Black is actually lost. So Black is just marking time, but now White's king has come
This is
out, and the king
dramatically
is going to
different than the starting position. Yeah.
escort the pawn. Now, at this point, the engine still says that Black is not lost yet. I actually think Black is lost, and this is just the rise of the engine. Unfortunately, the 7-piece table of aces
The rise of the machine.
don't work anymore. But now after bishop e2, a natural move of the kind you're supposed to play to attack a pawn chain at its base. Works in bishop swaps the colors positions and some others, but now White is winning.
Yeah.
And this is now kaput. So so that was the decisive moment in the women's match.
Yeah, it's hard to again, that's another kind of move that I don't understand, because all of your instincts would tell you to keep your king in front of the pawns.
Right.
It would seem to me. Even with your short on time, you wouldn't move your king away.
Yeah, it looked like Black was trying to desperately counterattack with the king, but it just takes too long to bring it around. Yeah.
Right. I see what you're saying. I could see that if you're short of time, maybe you thought that you had a chance to go king d4, c3, and create counter chances.
Yeah, that's what eventually happened.
Yeah.
But of course, you just play knight b1 here, and the knight can't be attacked, and White's going to queen. So, okay, last thing I'll show is the decisive the win by Abasov over Fabiano that Fabiano recovered from in the first regulation game and the third place match and the structure of the tournament was important because it decided the last candidate spot in both the women's and the men's divisions. But of course, with Carlsen refusing to play in the candidates.
He already mentioned that?
I've not mentioned that. Yeah, he has said that.
Okay.
I mean, I guess he hasn't made a formal declination yet. But
he can do anything what he wants. He can enter candidates, scoring, I'd say, 12 out of 14, and then refusing to play World Chess Championship match.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if he wants to play on traditional chess time controls anymore.
For amusement purposes only.
Yeah. He wants a mix of format.
Right.
He did say today, if you're speculating about what I mean, your best assumption is that what I say is what I meant. Anyway, so now it is so a normal type of line. Lots of position. I'm skipping over a lot of positional judgments. That
was very interesting. That series of moves there, but
and
it seemed to leave White better.
Yeah, I would have to say White is better because White has e4 as a latent possibility here. f5, Black can't oppose White from playing f5. But again, a strong point defense ought to work. At least the engine is to say Black can maintain the balance here. Now, one little tactical thing here. So there's one fact of the position that both players underestimated, which is that the advance f7, f5 is actually effective for Black. Because if White captures en passant, then White is 2 weak f-pawns. And if White doesn't capture en passant, then Black has blocked White. the e6 weakness is not so terrible.
You can't really
Black
attack.
has also connected the seventh rank. So anyway, so for that reason, Black should play knight e8 in this position, and make that's better able to defend things and make f5 work.
That's a really
Now this was White's queen e3 was not cracking the whip. White should play knight e4 and come in on d6.
yes. Which is
so
another
after,
reason 98 was superior.
yeah, after queen e3, f5 is a simple equalizer because now you're not going to get the e4 square, and
Another position of black two knights advantage.
yeah. Black's knight is stupid on h7, but we'll reroute it. White's not.
That's
gonna
the
do it.
theme of this program.
Yes.
The advantage of the two knights.
So we've
By the way,
discovered
Black played
something.
the other knight into d5, and now Caruana just made a completely bonzo move. Now White's e4 was begging for Black to play f5, and I think Carlsen would have played f5 in a heartbeat as Black in this position. But one wandering little misapprehension, so attacking White's d pawn. I think White's going to have to defend the d pawn, I guess.
Seems reasonable,
But,
right?
yeah, that's not true. So no
Right.
need to defend that d pawn because I'm going to give checkmate in this position. So if Black plays the queen takes d pawn, then this is checkmate. So obviously you can play king h8 and knight takes f7 is catastrophe.
Right.
Or if you take the knight, then this is checkmate on g5. And if you come out with the king, well, then White has discovered checks all over the place.
Right.
So this was just a total oversight, probably overlooking knight g5 check.
Yeah.
And so Caruana had to come back with the queen, an admission of mistake, but now it's too late. Bad things are happening on f6. So I'll just let's see. All right, so this is the most natural move, and now one point is that White does not have to move the queen, just f6 and attacking your queen. And if you take this,
Queen
then
takes.
this queen takes h6 and rook h3 mate.
The kind of queen sack you always want to make.
Yeah, that's right. So that was sudden collapse by Caruana, but he bounced back. And this was not a sudden collapse. I'll just play through this game.
And this is a must win here.
This was a must win as White, and found the way to get Black to complicate the game.
Yeah, and that was really interesting to me because when I played this over, I was going, "What's going on here?"
Yeah,
and that's not the kind of game Black wants.
No, this Bishop G4 in the Scheveningen or whatever Sicilian four knights type position. Yeah, so this is craziness, and the engine already likes it for White. So I don't know what Abasov was drinking, but
it seemed like a bad choice to me. The opening, yeah.
Now, mind you, it's equal if Black plays Bishop takes c3, which he did. So I guess if you're booked up, you know this, but Queen e7 was not the way to preserve equality. Instead, a wild move like g5 or e5 was needed. And so
he came up with it one move too late.
Yeah. So now there was also this one instructive thing about the end game here.
Oh no, he's got a bishop.
Yeah. So this was according to the engine. You should take on d4 and open the position first. Okay, that's so.
But I'm
So
still
anyway,
like
so in this position here, Black. The instructive thing is Black should play Bishop f5.
Ah, yeah.
So allowing, even though you gain a pawn back, allowing White's rook into the game, rook d6, when you have weaknesses on the king side, was not a good idea.
Correct. I get you.
Yeah. So once Black played this, now Caruana is too good a player.
I see.
And this led to a very technically interesting position. Okay, so wait till a pair of rooks come off. So you've got 3 versus 3 on the king side. And the fact that there are no queen side pawns does help the bishop out a little.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, it'd be interesting to see what the technical
And it
aspect
makes sense
is
to
here.
eliminate one of the rooks, the rook, so that
Right.
so White's playing for the traded rooks because that eases the win.
Right, and now White is able to create targets,
Right.
and White, maybe Black didn't play the best defense, but now Black is going to lose something, and resign. So, in all, a deserved comeback by Caruana. So I'll stop sharing at this point and let us wrap up.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Thank you so much for showing us very interesting games. We'll discuss it further next week. Same place, same time. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great
yes,
week.
it was a very exciting World Cup all
Yes.
through. Okay.
Thank you, Ken, for those games.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye bye.